And we're back. Welcome to Lobby Concessionals, the movie podcast when nobody's right and everybody's wrong. That's Brendan and I'm Parker. We're here today doing a late to the show episode, joined once again by CJ. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Of course, it was our pleasure.
I'm surprised you let me back in here.
So 2 weeks ago now, we discussed your hatred of Tom Hanks.
Famously discussed.
Specifically, if I can summarize, you mentioned that you think he is white bread, I believe was the word that was used, or the words.
Yeah.
And that basically he's bland. He's you're not happy about the fact that he's America's dad. You're not happy about that sort of Oakley dokley aspect of him, right?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I think that's a good summary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in order to potentially change your mind, we had you watch, and I also watched for the first time. Brendan, you had seen it before.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So CJ and I watched for the first time Bachelor Party from 1984, starring Tom Hanks, directed by Neil Israel.
Yeah.
So now I can throw that away. So it's a 1980s sex comedy. What were your thoughts?
It was an absolute joy. I hadn't watched an 80s sex comedy before, so there were some definitely surprises, bumpy parts. Really, you don't know what to expect until you see it. So yeah, it was a bit of a ride. I don't want to say that there was no hope that my mind was going to be changed on this, but like things weren't promising. So It didn't really work, but like the movie itself, I actually ended up enjoying more than I thought I would. We watched the trailer beforehand.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, it looked awful, and like 80s trailers, anyways, are like gonna be dicey, but like
it was particularly
looked
bad.
Awful. I went home and I was like, I can't believe I have to fucking watch this movie. So I put it off for a while. It felt like my chemistry homework, It's like, oh man, I gotta go in tomorrow, so I should probably watch it. So I watched it yesterday. But once I actually got into it, I had it on a USB stick, and that it played off it for about 38 minutes on my computer, and then it froze, so it wouldn't keep going. No. And like, if I hadn't been enjoying the movie, I would have used any excuse to be like, yep, that's fine. That's enough prep for CJ. And I actively seeked it out elsewhere.
Nice.
I found it on Disney Plus. I
sweet.
Actually know it was on there,
yeah,
so.
crazy! Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was pretty clutch. So I actually went out of my way to finish it, which I was pretty proud of myself for doing. In terms of our boy Tom, it definitely wasn't really what I wanted to see from him, and I knew it wouldn't be, and I knew it. Again, we talked about it. I'm sure that that range of his performance is non-existent, and we'll never see it unless he becomes really scary when he's older, which would be the first interesting thing he does in his whole life.
Just to sort of bring us back to the last episode, basically you were looking for. We kept mentioning Hannibal Lecter. It didn't need to be Hannibal Lecter, but you were looking for him to take a turn as like a true villain.
Yeah, I wanted him to demonstrate some range, I wanted to see, it didn't even have to be villainy, but it had to be something else, noticeably something else. So, I agree with Brendan from last episode and your take that, it's probably the closest we're going to get to something else, and I did see that in his performance. So, in terms of differentiating himself from his more recent work, it was good for me.
Yeah.
I liked it in the sense that he was weird and he was out there and eccentric and
still
sleazy.
Too lovable, probably.
Well, that's the problem. The way it was framed is that you're still rooting for him the entire time.
Yeah,
even though there's some red flags and stuff with the bus and stuff at the start and whatever, you're like, oh, maybe this is gonna be pretty rough, and then it's just immediately he's the hero of the story, and that you're just pulling for him the whole time. I mean, as much as there can be a hero in a sex comedy, the protagonist, and it's always you're even though he's a bit of a dick at times, you're always kind of rooting for him. And,
totally.
So, I know Debbie has her kind of misgivings about him even as they're engaged and stuff his wife to be. He's putting this bachelor party together, and she's clearly spooked the whole time. But then, like, by the end and stuff, even though he throws basically like a donkey show orgy in his hotel room, it's still like, wow, Debbie was a fucking idiot. Like, can't believe she doubted Tom Hanks. Look at this guy, unimpeachable character, so smooth, you know, like so.
Like, I have to say though, you mentioned the school bus. I was the same when I first watched it. I'm like, oh man, like he's actively letting kids like look at Playboys on his school bus. Yeah. He's asking for cuts from the gambling ring that's happening in the back of the bus, and I'm like, man, maybe he's going to be a little offbeat. Yeah. And then he's still sort of a paragon of virtue, or as much as you can be a paragon of virtue in a movie featuring a donkey snorting cocaine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And like even his character's that way, but like the way it's framed the whole time, even when like the sketchy stuff in the bus is happening, you know, you still know it's just gonna be like, oh yeah, this is just fun and games with the kids, you know? Classic 80s sex stuff. You know? So, yeah. I don't know. It was not the worst, honestly. I definitely chuckled a few times, and to bring it back to Tom, like he compared to the rest of the cast, he was electric. Like, like, you know, it's not like he's really bad at what he does. Like he's an actor. Like he's, you know, which is more than can be said for anybody else in the film. The donkey was pretty good. Like, I don't know.
No, I'm a big fan of Nick the Dick.
Oh my god,
the dick.
That dude was very handsome.
I will admit, when we pulled up that trailer, it felt like I was watching people die in real time. Oh, man. And I had never seen the trailer. I had only watched the movie. So seeing the trailer for the first time with you guys, I'm like, now I don't want to watch the movie, and I know I like it.
Yeah. Saw the light leave my eyes.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel so bad for making these dudes watch it. So to even get any kind of enjoyment out of it is a big relief.
Yeah.
Well, I need to put a disclaimer out there, just because, you know, like this is kind of a recommendation, but it is important to note that there is a fair amount of like boilerplate 80s. Racism, misogyny, transphobia.
Well.
Like there's some rough moments.
Yeah.
There was a running gag about how one of the Tom Hanks's friends wants to kill himself because he's upset in his marriage. And Tom Hanks basically reacts to it the whole time by basically making fun of him that he's doing it wrong. At one point, he walks into a bathroom and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing over there?" And his buddy's like, "Just trying to slit my wrist." And he's like, "With an electric razor? That's not going to get anything done."
At least your wrist will be smooth and kissable.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. And so he does basically everything short of handing him some razor blades. You know, like. But I agree. There was some legitimately funny parts in this.
Yeah.
Shockingly, because again, I was the same. Where I was like, oh, okay, well, I was really disappointed because I'm like, man, I could have been watching Road to Perdition, and we decided on this movie. But no, I had a great time with it actually. You know, like there's a running gag with the donkey's corpse in the elevator that I thought was also hilarious.
Oh, you know? I had a hard time. But I had a hard time with like all of it, you know. So there were definitely like funny parts, and then most of it was like, oh, we're back to this.
Was this your first 80s like sex comedy as well?
I don't think so, but I literally can't name another one. But I've definitely watched at least sex comedies before. Like I've watched like
American Pie and
sure,
stuff. The evolution of whatever this would be.
But that's still 20 years later, or I think first American Pie is like 97 or something, or 98,
99.
So it's only 15 years, but still, like it is. But there's some very, very similar threads. Like the movie hasn't aged that much, and as much as some of that transphobia and racism and stuff is jarring, as far as sex comedies go, it's almost exactly the same. Like there's a lot of the stuff that sounds like it could have been made yesterday. You know, like.
That's true. It was like, I would say, openly way hornier, like than anything else I've ever seen. Like I've seen American Pie. It's so much hornier than American Pie. Like the dudes are climbing all over each other, like women.
Women.
Like,
yeah, that's fair.
just super weird.
Yeah, literally screaming for women was a bit of a, and there was no women in the room yet. Like, oh man, it was a look. It was a look.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, pretty tough.
So is it fair to say you enjoyed Tom Hanks' performance in this more than you have in other films?
Yeah, like I would say so.
Okay.
As much as low a bar as that could possibly be, like it's true. And like I said, I saw some different things that I haven't seen before. Even though the framing was putting him in the same limelight, kind of. I did like that he was strange and wild and a little crazy, and that was fun, and like and it was cool to see him with such an ass cast because like you do see that he's like, oh, this guy can actually kind of act and these people clearly can't.
and that's a great point, is that especially recently he's typically with like people that really know how to act. Like he's typically with A-listers, so it is hard to tell. So actually see him, like you said, act and noticeably stand out amongst the cast, which again was garbage. But stand out amongst them was like, oh wow, like I see why he has had the career he's had. Like at the very least, it's deserved. Like he should have continued to get roles.
I don't agree that it's deserved.
I'm just saying, at the very least,
he was chosen by God to be sucked off by Hollywood. And
all
fine.
agree,
but like
that he is an incredible actor.
No,
and we should all watch his movies.
Yeah, not the case.
I'm glad that we're all on the same page with this. I think we can really walk away saying this was a W for Lobby Concessionals.
I'm glad you feel that way. That's good. Good for you.
Brendan, did you end up rewatching it?
I did.
You did.
I did.
And so did it hold up? Like, I assume when the last time you watched this was 20 years prior? Like,
no, maybe like 10.
Oh, okay.
Maybe like 10. I think I enjoy 80s movies, and we're an 80s movies house. So we go through bouts of that stuff. So, but this one's it's been a while. Like if I was looking for an 80s Tom Hanks movie, it's usually like Big.
Sure. Okay.
As opposed to Bachelor Party.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I mean, like it hasn't aged well at all.
There's some rough ones.
At all.
Yeah.
But I think you could say that about most 80s movies. I don't think you could make a weird science in today's climate.
No. And like, it was a different time. Literally, there was aspects of it they just didn't know any better.
Or it was normalized.
Yeah, absolutely. So it wasn't an issue. So could they have been more progressive? Absolutely. Like there was things in there that they could have not said.
Yeah.
And there's some of the cheaper jokes in there that are like,
Yeah.
But you're just more likely to run into that stuff in that genre.
Totally.
Like if you were like rewatch like The Lost Boys or something, which is like my favorite 80s movie, I'm sure there's stuff in there that's just not the best still, but like you're just not going to run into like the shitty jokes and whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much. So yeah.
And I think you're right. It's true for that genre. Like I think like even The Hangover isn't exactly a sex comedy, but it's not.
No.
And that was only I think 2008.
Yeah.
And there's problematic stuff in that, and so you're totally right. The genre lends itself to cheap, bad jokes.
Yeah.
But does that mean like in modern times movies like that get neutered? Is like tag a neutered version of Bachelor Party?
I haven't really seen a recent one to like compare it to, but like I don't know. I feel like the comedians, like a lot of them are upset because of cancel culture, and they'll talk about how it's so hard to be funny these days. I think you can still make a good sex comedy. I'm sure you can find a way to do it. If you really try. But it's I think the low hanging fruit isn't there as much.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy. Maybe you're not going to get the cheapest laughs imaginable on the old material.
Well, so my argument would be a sex comedy, a modern sex comedy that avoids those cheap laughs is Booksmart.
Oh, I was like,
you're
gonna bring up those Sonic movies again? Just
no, but Booksmart,
it's amazing.
Booksmart, incredible movie. I didn't even think to compare it because it's just so good.
When I think of Booksmart, to me, it's just like another coming of age film. as
Yeah.
opposed to sex comedy.
But there is
Absolutely.
like sex comedy tropes in there. Like it might be a little bit of a rough one, but it's like I guess Superbad is the other one, and Booksmart is just a progressive Superbad.
Yeah.
And frankly a better Superbad. Like
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so like it's definitely possible, and I agree. I think you get comedians that complain about the cancel culture and stuff, and I think it's a lazy excuse.
That's what I'd say. Yeah, lazy.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just like there is ways to make smart intellectual comedy that don't hurt people,
Yeah.
And
I thought Blockers was another good one.
I haven't actually seen Blockers.
I haven't either.
It's hilarious.
I'm
really good things.
way more of a John Cena guy than I thought,
Yeah.
so I'm probably planning to revisit it. But
He's amazing in that movie.
he's hilarious, man.
He's great.
He's a good actor.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great. He's kind of like picked into like his niche,
Yeah.
which has been a really, really good. But Blockers is great.
He's probably not Tom Hanks level, but he's like good. He's a good actor for sure.
I don't know. I think he's a better niche actor.
He's definitely got more range than Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Anyone have any like?
No, I'm just surprised we got it done. Like,
No, what's up?
like I'm surprised the three of us watched it again. Like, again, if you sat those three guys after that trailer and asked like, "Hey, are you excited to get this done?" It would have been like, even me, I'd be like, "I don't think I'm going to watch that again."
Broken human being.
I was definitely considering just reading the Wikipedia summary and then showing up pretending I knew what was going to happen here, and like, I can talk about things,
Yeah.
CJ still hates Tom Hanks. Like we could have just went with it.
Scrap the whole episode. Yeah. We'll just put a summary up.
No, I'm just happy we got it done.
Yeah, we did the legwork.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, it's good that we came out with a W.